And welcome to the Bitcoin in Nigeria show. We are the voice for the Bitcoin in Nigeria and all across Africa. I'm your host, Charlene Fadirepo. Today, we will be speaking with Tongayi Choto, the founder of AfriBlocks, which is a marketplace for African talent based in Zimbabwe. Let's get started. Good afternoon to those joining us from the United States, and good evening to those joining us from every country across the beautiful continent of Africa. This is the Bitcoin in Nigeria show. Thank you so much to everyone for being here with us today. My name is Charlene Fadirepo. I'm the host of the show. And again, we're the voice for Bitcoin in Nigeria and all across the continent of Africa. Today is Monday, September 26, 2022. The price of Bitcoin is $19,176 per coin. We've seen a little bit in the drop of the price. So, of course, we say Bitcoin is still on sale. So you should be absolutely stacking your sats. Before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about the Bitcoin in Nigeria show. We are focused on being the voice for Bitcoin in and all across the continent of Africa. If you've been with us for the past year or so, you know that our mission and our vision is clear. We are focusing on expanding the narrative of Bitcoin by giving voice to the innovators, the ecosystem builders, the developers, and the early adopters that are leading this Bitcoin revolution that is happening all across Africa. We hope that these discussions help to deepen your understanding of this space and the global use case of Bitcoin across the continent. Some of you are joining us live on Twitter Spaces, and if that is the case, thank you so much for being a part of our community. Others are joining us on our YouTube channel, the Bitcoin in Nigeria show. If you're joining there, we thank you. Still others might be watching this on our website, which is bitcoininnigeria.io. We thank you and we appreciate any support that we've had. And again, it takes everyone to build this space together. Before we get into this amazing discussion with the founder of AfriBlocks, I want to tell you a little bit about me and my background. I'm Charlene Fadirepo. I'm a career banker. I'm a former U.S. regulator based here in the United States. I'm a Bitcoin advocate and active. I'm the founder of two companies. One company, Guidefi, where we help Black women build wealth through Bitcoin education classes, and also Mango Digital Strategies, where we help institutions get smart about cryptocurrency and build and future-proof their strategies through crypto. I also have two books that I've written. One book is called Bitcoin and the American Dream, which is a book that we're using to have a smart conversation with elected leaders in the United States about Bitcoin and the promise of Bitcoin in the U.S. economy. And if you are a Bitcoin parent, you might be interested in my children's book called Sade, Satoshis, which is a book to teach our little ones about the power and promise of Bitcoin. All right, as far as our format today, we are going to be focusing all of our discussions and spending some time with Tongayi Choto, who again is the founder of AfriBlocks. As always, as we always do, we're going to leave about 10 minutes at the end of this discussions for you all to join us live on Twitter Spaces, for you to ask Tongayi questions about what it was like on his Bitcoin journey and what it's been like building AfriBlocks. We always record all of our conversations because we want everybody in the community, far and wide, to be able to benefit from this knowledge and information. And again, we will be here for all in about an hour. So enjoy. So let's meet our guest for the afternoon. Tongayi Choto is the co-founder and CEO of AfriBlocks, which is a pan-African marketplace where African freelancers can provide remote services to clients across the world. Tongayi was recognized as one of the most influential people of African descent under 40 in Inside Africa 2020. He is the former vice chair of the science and technology sector for the African Union's Pan-African Diaspora Association. Tongayi has been developing blockchain solutions since 2014, and he was part of the team that received the first ever remittance license from a reserve bank to explicitly use Bitcoin to send funds. And in that capacity, he was a product developer manager of Bill Murray, which is an international startup based in Washington, D.C. Tongayi is based in Harare, Zimbabwe, and he studied computer science and math at the University of Zimbabwe. Welcome to the show, Tongayi Choto.
Great, great. Thank you for having me, Charlene.
Excellent, excellent. So we read an amazing bio and all of the wonderful achievements that you've made so far. But I'd love us to get started for you to
Yeah,
tell us for who you are, tell us your educational background, and we'd love to hear your Bitcoin story.
thank you, thank you. Yeah, when you were reading, I was like, "Who's that guy?" But
Exactly.
yeah, thank you so much, for having me. I think it's so easy when you're building to just focus on trying to get ahead and forget about the work that you've already achieved. And as you're reading, it just kind of gave me this feeling to continue doing the work. But yeah, I'm Tongayi Choto, co-founder of AfriBlocks, based in Harare, Zimbabwe. But AfriBlocks is a US registered company. I'm currently in Washington D.C. We just finished the Black Blockchain Summit, of which AfriBlocks is a co-host. So it was super amazing, meeting people. We had the African Diaspora Connect event on last week as well. So yeah, that has been great. But taking you back, to talk about my story. Goes back way to like 2014 when I graduated from the University of Zimbabwe doing computer science and mathematics. And, during that point where you're trying to figure out what next, where should I work? I've this degree. What do I do next? That's when I heard about Bitcoin. And the very first time I heard about it was from one of my mentors, Mr. St. Clair Skinner, because he came to Zimbabwe looking for software developers to work with. And I remember that night, I was just reading and reading and, thinking, what, this is amazing technology. You can send money to anyone and you don't need to go through a bank. And the fees that time were like 2 cents to send $100, all of those things. So instantly after that, that's when I got to work in the space, blockchain, building financial technology services, and particularly to be able to help out because during that time we had a lot of financial issues back home in Zimbabwe. Particularly our financial system was not stable, so cryptocurrency and Bitcoin uh, was and still is one of the solutions that I personally think can change people's lives. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so that's and of course, you guys, Sinclair Skinner was the founder of the Black Blockchain Summit, which just wrapped up
Yep.
in Washington D.C., which is on the campus of
Yep.
Howard University. So thank you for that. I want to spend some time on that real quick. So, you guys were the host of the Black Blockchain Summit. Tell us about why, and I think you mentioned earlier that you attended the Black Blockchain Summit, and then over the years you began to expand your role in that summit. Tell us why that's important, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on kind of connecting the African diaspora to folks that are currently living in Africa.
I think one of the greatest things about the Black Blockchain Summit is, we are learning this new technology, coming together as enthusiasts, thought leaders, and basically leaders in this space. And this is being done on a global scale. I literally flew in from Zimbabwe. We had people from Kenya, we had people from Nigeria come into the summit, and also people from all over the United States. And the goal was to literally say, how can we use blockchain technology? How can we use Bitcoin to develop our communities, globally as African Americans, as Black people globally? How do we do that? And I think those conversations are super important. And when everyone at the summit, I'm sure when they came, you never heard anyone talk about join my thing, for $10, or there's this club. None of that. It was just about the technology. It was just about the technology and how do we solve the challenges that are in our communities using this infrastructure that has been growing since 2009, when the first white paper of Bitcoin was released. So yeah, that's why I say no. Let's keep being in this space. AfriBlocks, what we do is we are a Pan-African freelancers talent marketplace, and what we do is we connect uh, designers, marketers, developers from across the continent with remote jobs across the world. So anyone in the world who wants to work with African talent is able to do that in a seamless, way. From posting a job to collaborating and to making payments. So that payments aspect is where we now talk about how do we further develop the financial technology infrastructure for the future of work in Africa, because currently someone you would want would actually it's difficult to find someone to work with, which AfriBlocks is fixing. And it's even harder when you do find someone. It's even harder to figure out how do I pay them, because someone is in Zambia, someone is in Ghana, in Kenya. They're all different regulators, all different territories, and you now have to figure out how do I pay them, being someone in Washington DC or San Francisco. So that infrastructure is what we are every day we wake up and keep building on that to say it has to be easy. It does not have to be as difficult as it is right now. I'll give you an example about I don't know if you know the SWIFT system, the
No,
SWIFT financial system
I
globally.
think
And
you're very familiar.
yeah, yeah,
Very
and
familiar.
it's crazy. Like literally, Zambia is next to Zimbabwe, but if I want to
Mhm.
make a wire transfer to Zambia, it has to go through the SWIFT system,
So it
which
has to
means
come to the US?
it has to get approved in the US
Oh no.
before it gets
Wow.
to Zambia, which is literally like the country next to ours. So our legacy
Yeah.
financial structure globally is it's not working. Given all these changes in technology, all these advancements in the internet, mobile phones, laptops. I literally, like, my phone is way more powerful than the computer that I grew up using. It's like 300, 400 times more powerful, but still you're telling me that my money has to go through the United States first before it goes to the next country. So to the country literally next to us. So it's all about control. It's all about power. And that's why blockchain technology is important for us to learn. Again, in any currency, it's very easy to have bad actors and bad players. So that's why we need to lead and say this is how this should work. And it's not based on one person's opinion. It's based on the whole community coming together and building together.
Indeed. And for folks that might not be familiar with the SWIFT system is basically a network of 11,000 banks around the world that are connected. And typically, in the traditional system, those banks use the SWIFT system to do currency transfers and to do institutional payments. And to Tongai's point, I mean, it can take as long as 3 days in the US to make, if I wanted to make a payment to the UK, it can take 3 days. And so to your point, Tongai, country to country in Africa, it is ridiculous that a payment has to come to the United States, leave the continent, come to the
Mhm.
United, and then go back. And then what you didn't talk about was the fees, because any bank in the SWIFT system has full jurisdiction to charge whatever they want for money
Yeah,
transfers. So you pay
yeah,
when it leaves. And so you literally are paying at every toll gate, which is just unacceptable. It's slow. It is it's too expensive and it's unacceptable. It's 2022, and the banking infrastructure in the world, because it's not just Africa, in the world needs to mature. So to your point, like that's why the work that you're doing at AfriBlocks is so important, because I'm excited about AfriBlocks because you guys are building infrastructure. You're supplying startups with talent. That's the hardest part of building a
Yeah.
startup. I'm an entrepreneur. I understand how hard it is to find good people, but you're also upskilling folks that are in country in Africa. We haven't talked about this, but Africa suffers from the brain drain, where the best and the brightest have to leave to go get great jobs somewhere else. But if all those folks are leaving, you can't build an industry in country. So that's why AfriBlocks' work is so important. Okay, so I'd love to hear about some of the success stories. So I know you guys have been connecting professionals with opportunities for quite some time. Are there any success stories that stand out, that really speak to the impact that you've been able to make across the continent of Africa?
Sure. I do like, the point that you made about, AfriBlocks being able to bridge that gap between, particularly around the brain drain that's happening. Because what we're saying is, we, if this infrastructure is there, you'd have no reason to leave the continent,
There you
because you
go.
can just, still get work done from wherever you are. And
Exactly.
really the backstory, just to take you back a bit, when AfriBlocks, the idea started, I was working for Bill Murray as their lead developer, in San Francisco. And as soon as you meet someone and mention your software developer, the next thing they're going to say is, I'm actually looking for one, or I have a friend that has been looking for a software developer. Can I connect with you? Can you help? And at that time, I wasn't able to do that, because of time and everything. But when I go back home, my colleagues, my friends who I went to school with, who were way more better developers than I am, would say, can you connect me, with job opportunities? And you know, for me, that was like the light bulb. Why not just connect these two people, and they do what they have to do? And
Mhm.
created a WhatsApp group. It started with like three of my friends, and within 3 months, it grew to like 600 people from across, four countries looking for jobs. And
Wow.
that was like,
And
okay,
when
so
was that?
there's a
When was
room. You say what?
that? What
Yeah,
year
that
was
was
that?
around December 2019, when that blew up. And then I was like, we need a structure for this. Created a website over a weekend, for people to register, so that we just know who's who. We need this, jobs being posted and things like that. And from that point onwards, we needed to keep, developing this infrastructure. And I really did connect and see the impact of someone, this side who said, really need talent to help me with this, get their job done. And this side who said, I really need a gig, and they were able to be paid. So there are two people in this marketplace that, managed to connect and, get their work done and be able to advance, in their lives with, what they were doing. And that's when I reached out, to my co-founder, Roger Roman, who I'd worked with before, at that startup. And as soon as I mentioned, what the idea was, I was like, yeah, let's build this, let's do it. And that from then on, we were building. We managed to get into TechStars in January of 2021.
Mhm.
Actually, we qualified in December. Started the program in January 2021, and fast forward October 2021, we got accepted into Google Black Founders Fund,
Excellent.
for Black founders. And we've been building since then. Recently as well, we got funded by Adverse, which is a Web3 focused fund, because part of what we're building, is towards how do we get this infrastructure to be able to reach more people, and solve that issue of payments. So yeah, that's some of the great milestones that we've had. And again, it's super easy to just look towards the future, which is something that I do the most, and forget about the things that we have achieved as a startup building based out of Harare, Zimbabwe, Washington, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and literally building globally, which is difficult. It's not that easy. Our startups are.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. That's fantastic. So let's switch gears. I'd love to hear, since you've been in this space for so long, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Bitcoin ecosystem in Zimbabwe, how it's grown over time, and who are the key players, and what are your hopes for that ecosystem?
Yeah, so the ecosystem, like, well, recently I think the ecosystem is shaky anyway. Why?
Mm,
Because of the price, and most people that get involved in this space, unfortunately, are looking at the price. They're putting in money, they wanted to gain, within the next 3 4 days, a month, I don't know. So but in Zimbabwe, the market is what I think it should be. Everywhere else, it's literally peer to peer. There are WhatsApp groups which you can join and say, "I'm looking for $100 worth of Bitcoin." You send to them, they send to you. Literally just on WhatsApp, Telegram, which is peer to peer, which I think is it shows the power of Bitcoin as a technology, or as a digital currency. Um, I do think more can be done, to educate, particularly the I'll say banks, regulators, companies, because there's this thing where uh, people are just, because we, unfortunately, there were some scams that came in when it started. I think there was this called Triple M, which was a multi-level scheme of trying to get you to bring two people. Like, it's how
mm,
crazy it is. And
yeah,
but I do always say this though: scams will happen in any currency,
right. That's
whether
right.
whether
Scams
it's
today in any currency
fiat
and in any
currency, yeah, in any currency, any
country,
country. And
any time.
so
Agreed.
yeah, so Zimbabwe being a country with regulations, the police and things like that, they banned Bitcoin because people were being scammed. And for them, because what they know is Bitcoin is scamming people, they're like, okay, let's stop this. Because the funny thing is, when someone joins this scheme, if they get money from that, they're good. But if they lose money, guess who they go to? To the
The
police. They go to the
got it.
regulator, like, yeah, I lost money here. And now the regulator is trying to figure out what's going on. Why are so many people losing money? So they had to do what they had to do, because to protect the public. And now, I know the Reserve Bank has set up what they're calling a sandbox for blockchain companies who want to participate, so that they can take an approach where a research-based approach where they can look at how can we use this. And I think it's a great idea, as opposed to just leaving this space unknown. Like, people are not sure, is this okay, is this not okay? So that's where we are. And I do hope the sandbox works, and I do hope it moves faster, because it was created a while ago, and so far we haven't had much feedback. But that's something on my end as well. I need to check to see how that has been going.
Yeah, indeed. And so I know that Zimbabwe unfortunately has a title of having three-digit inflation, and I think the last
Yeah.
I checked, the inflation in Zimbabwe last year was about 192%. That's compared to here in the U.S. we have 8.5% inflation, which is incredibly high. So do you see? So those folks that are using Bitcoin on a peer-to-peer basis, I mean, is it all about kind of trying to gain, or are folks, do you see folks saying, hey, you know what? Bitcoin is so much better than our current Zimbabwe dollar. We're going to keep our currency there. Or is it a mix of both?
I think I'll mention something that that's my opinion, because the thing with the inflation and everything, it's so weird that I've lived like I would say 10 years of my life in Harare, Zimbabwe, and the biggest country in the world is sanctions on a country with like 16 million people, the biggest economy in the world for I think it's over 10 years now. So all of that, among other things, affected, the economy, affected the currency, and there's so many points you can point to say this is the one that caused this, but I think it's a collective of all of that,
Everything.
yeah,
Yep.
that caused those issues. But the interesting thing is I see people use Bitcoin, or not just as a store of value, but mostly as even a way to transact, because of those sanctions. There's some countries that you try to buy something and you cannot, because they're like, we don't accept this. I remember, I think there's a company called B Forward. People can buy cars there using
Hmm.
Bitcoin, because they cannot do that using local currency, because
Oh my
that company is not from Zimbabwe. Is that company is not from Zimbabwe, so basically they don't accept our currency. And
Where are they from? Are they African or they're
I know
complete?
it's a used car market, I think, based out of Japan, I think. But
That's interesting.
this is
They
just an
only accept
example. Yeah. So you say what?
they don't accept the Zimbabwe dollar. They
Mhm.
do accept Bitcoin.
Yeah, so they accept Bitcoin, they accept United States dollars, but locally, United States, I mean, it's not made from Zimbabwe, United States dollars, so it's not readily available. So now people ended up buying Bitcoin using local
Nice.
currency to be able to trade basically globally. So I just mentioned cars, but the other things is all like maybe you're trying to import goods, all of that. But all of this is mostly like directly peer to peer. There's really no platform or company that facilitates that. So it's a long way to go. And recently I do feel like things can get better. It's just that most people, again, when they join Bitcoin, they want to gain, of
Mhm.
which from history you see that Bitcoin is really volatile. You can wake up and it's something else, and people can lose money. So I always advise people to, or recommend rather, people to say, when you about to do this, do your research. Don't just go in blindly, and know that there are risks to being involved in this space.
Good deal. Good deal. What do you think? And I think we've kind of talked about it, but what are the biggest barriers? Would you say the biggest barriers to Bitcoin in Zimbabwe? Is it just education plus infrastructure and tools? Or how would you characterize the biggest barriers that you see?
I think one barrier, there are a lot of other barriers as well, but one barrier that people don't talk about is the fact that for you to buy Bitcoin, you need to have the money to buy it, right?
Okay.
So if you're someone who's you know just getting money enough to get you to the next day or next month, and really don't have savings to spare to buy this thing that's digital, that you really, your mind is not in that space. Your mind is about, how do I get to the next month? And someone is here talking about buying something digital that you know so the approach that we take is, let's create these job opportunities through our platform. Someone has a day job and they're also able to become a freelancer, probably work during the night time, because of the time zones out there, like opposite. I think Zimbabwe is like 7 hours behind the United States. So you're able to actually do your day job, get home, rest 2 3 hours, start to do design work for another company, this side or in the UK, things like that. And that's how we're taking that approach to say, let's help people in. And then it'll be a more meaningful conversation to say get involved in Bitcoin. Like,
Got it.
because right now people just involved in the sense that they know what it is, but not in the sense that they're participating and creating wallets and having savings in Bitcoin, because they just don't have that side income. So that's the approach that we're taking.
Got it. Got it. So disposable income. I mean, and that's true. I mean, we always encourage people, you should not be investing the money you need to live your life in any
Yeah,
investment, especially Bitcoin. This is you should be investing your disposable income, the income that you don't need. And hopefully that's long-term income. So that's a really good point. Giving people the resources to have other income sources so that they have extra money to invest.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Okay, so let's a few more questions and then we'll wrap. What are you most excited about as you think about Bitcoin's impact on Zimbabwe and the future of Africa?
I think I'm excited about its connection with Web3,
Mm,
because there's been this at AfriBlocks we're building that technology infrastructure, right, to connect uh, African professionals with the rest of the world. And recently we just silently put out our beta, where we're still getting people to test it, but it's the new platform that we've been creating and developing over the last close to a year now. And the shift after that, the next steps will be to integrate more of this emerging technology that improves or accelerates the growth of um, adoption for talent, for clients being able to get their work done. So I think that's the my greatest you know what I'm looking forward to see how Bitcoin is, what role and to what extent it's going to play in the future of work in Africa and beyond.
excellent. Well, Tongayi Choto, the blocks, we thank you for your time at the Bitcoin in Nigeria show. We're excited about the fact that you are
Great.
connecting talented
Hmm.
professionals with wonderful jobs so that they can invest in Bitcoin and live better lives. We look forward to you building and growing the AfriBlocks organization.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate you so much. The work that you're doing is important. People need to hear these stories, and we need to tell our own stories, right? And platform like yours helps us to do that. So thank you so much for having me.
All right, guys. So thank you so much for joining the Bitcoin in Nigeria show. Just like we always do, we will transition from this platform and go to Twitter Spaces so you can ask Tongayi any questions about Zimbabwe, about AfriBlocks, and about being a pioneer in the space. So give us a couple of seconds. We'll switch gears, and we'll do live Q&A on Twitter Spaces. Thank you so much, guys. The city of the horses. Yeah, do great work with the hustlers. Proud if they ask us. Not like the rest, cause we just us. Hey.